I'm Dr. Parul Tank. I'm a consultant psychiatrist and therapist. I practice in Mumbai at various centers. I not only practice psychiatry, but I also do therapy and counseling, especially for trauma, a type of therapy called EMDR. Today, we are going to talk about emotional trauma, what are its effects, what are its impacts, and how can we help the population at large. So emotional trauma is a lot like physical trauma. Trauma comes from the Greek word called injury. It's not only physical trauma today because mind is part of our body, but also we have something called emotional trauma. What do we mean by that? Any kind of incident or event in our life that can be maladaptive gives rise to trauma. You can have a big T, you can have a small t. Big T's are obviously natural or man-made disasters. They could be floods, they could be accidents, it could be an abuse. And of course, then you have the small T's which also constitute trauma, say bullying, humiliation, getting picked on. It could be, say, just feeling very anxious before an event. All these or a series of these events can ultimately lead to emotional trauma. So reactions to any traumatic event are threefold. We call them physiological or physical reactions. We can have emotional reactions and of course behavioral reactions. We are human beings, so physical reaction, just like any animals, would be racing of a heartbeat, dryness of mouth, feeling sweaty, maybe the hands shivering, wanting to go to the washroom, or just as we very commonly call it, butterflies in the stomach sensation. Emotional reactions, you can have just feeling overwhelmed, feeling scared, some people feel like crying, some people maybe get angry. And then finally you have behavioral reactions where maybe you may hit out at somebody, you may want to run away because you're so scared of that emotional reaction. Maybe you may get angry, so maybe you'll displace it on somebody else. Things like that. So it is a threefold reaction to emotional trauma. So what I would like to add is that there are different people who have different reactions to emotional trauma. We are all very unique individuals. So everybody's reaction is not going to be the same. You'll have some people who are very emotional or who get very overwhelmed, or they talk a lot because they've gone through something, or maybe they'll cry a lot, or they will reminisce or remember a lot what has happened. There are some who just close up, they clam up, they don't talk at all. But we say that even if you don't speak emotionally, the body speaks. And so you can have body reactions. So you will always feel a bit anxious. So maybe you'll always have tremors of the hands. Or maybe you'll have headache every time you think of that event. Or you may go back to that kind of an emotional trauma. So you can have range of reactions from black to white. You can have people who may have complete overwhelming reactions to people who completely shut down. And of course in between. So PTSD is a little technical term. What it means is post-traumatic stress disorder. It was a term which was designed by psychiatrists many years ago, and what it involves is threefold. One is hyperarousability, avoidance, and re-experiencing the event. Let me explain this to you. So hyperarousability means you will get extremely anxious, extremely overwhelmed every time you think of that event, or maybe you see that event or person again. Avoidance is you don't want to go near that event, or you kind of avoid that person who has caused you to feel that way. So let me give an example. Say somebody got stuck in a lift a few months ago. Now they have experienced something called PTSD. They don't want to go by lift because they feel phobic, or they feel that they are going to die every time they get stuck in a lift. You can have an avoidance for people. So say somebody is terrified because their boss is very aggressive. They would avoid the boss because every time they've seen that boss in the past, they have experienced a kind of emotional overreaction. You can also have a re-experiencing in your mind of that event. So for example, say somebody who's gone through floods and they've survived, they will have dreams or nightmares where they're constantly re-experiencing those symptoms even when that event is over. So these symptoms are called PTSD symptoms. Now, does that mean everyone who goes through a bad emotional reaction or a bad event or a stressful event undergoes PTSD? No. There are some people who do, and we see it in our daily lives, don't we? That some people will undergo PTSD and there are some who don't, and the event may be the same. Anything untreated, whether it's a medical disorder now or even a psychological disorder, is never going to get better on its own. It may get better in parts, but the resolution never happens. So you can have some cases where there has been a traumatic event. They do resolve a little bit, but there will always be a little traces. So say that person will always feel anxious before an event, or that person may always get a headache before something is to happen, which was similar to the past. We call it the past becomes the present. Of course, then you have the long-term sequelae or the long-term reaction. So you'll have depression in some people. People may suffer from anxiety disorders. Some people even get panic or phobic disorders. And of course, then you have worse long-term things, like some people take to addictions. You can have people who will take alcoholism as a way of coping with that emotional trauma. Or maybe there are some who may have severe anger outbursts. Their personality becomes completely different. So of course, it's not good term sequelae. Best to look at treatment in terms of therapy or medications, or both. There are different treatment modalities. There are a lot of myths. There are a lot of facts. One of the treatment modalities which is given for moderate to severe trauma is medication. Now, medication, there are a lot of myths about it, especially in relation to mental health. So people think that it can cause brain damage, they will get addicted, they are sedative, it slows down the brain. This is absolutely untrue. In fact, the studies show that during emotional trauma or after it, there are certain chemicals in the brain like serotonin and adrenaline, they reduce. How do you make them come to optimum levels? By taking medication. Also, medications are never given for life. There are times when it can be given just for a few months as well, depending on the symptoms. So neurochemicals like serotonin, adrenaline, dopamine have to be in the right amount in the brain, and they are called feel-good kind of chemicals, or they stabilize the emotions. They cause a kind of regulation, as we say, of emotions. That's very important for our day-to-day living. And if they go haywire, our symptoms, as I have mentioned, behavioral, emotional, psychological, physiological emotions go completely haywire. So to maintain that stability, if we don't have it, it's time we used science to get them, and medications is one of them. Apart from medications, therapy or counseling, as it is called, is also very, very important. Now, counseling, people used to think it is just baatcheet, just talking and chatting and giving advice, which even your aunt at home can give. Absolutely untrue. Therapy is extremely structured today. It is in fact very scientific today. There are different types of therapies, there are different modalities of therapies, and the way the session is, they are very structured. So one needs to go to a good psychologist who's done her training or his training in therapy to undergo it. What are the types of therapy? There are names for it. So one of them is called EMDR. EMDR, a very weird sounding name, but it is very effective. What it means is eye movement, desensitization and reprocessing. What it says is that in trauma, the past has become the present. That means when we witness a trauma or hear about a trauma, it gets stuck in the amygdala. As a result, it has not got processed. That memory has not got processed. EMDR works with memories. It helps to reprocess that memory and bring it to an adaptive resolution. When I use these words like maladaptive and adaptive, what I really mean is, let me give an example. Say somebody has had an auto accident, survived, but now does not want to travel by the auto, because when that person had the accident, the way the memory was stored was, I'm going to die. So every time that person sees an auto on the road, the thought is, I'm going to die. This memory is maladaptive. So what EMDR and some other therapies do is convert this thought that I am going to die to a thought, no, I'm alive, I'm okay. So this kind of therapies very simply change that way of thinking from maladaptive to adaptive memories. Apart from EMDR, there are other therapies as well. So you have something called CBT or REBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy and rational emotive behavior therapy. All these therapies, medications are available with psychologists and psychiatrists in the market. I think the key is to approach the psychologist and psychiatrist when you're undergoing this kind of emotional trauma. In my experience, it has been seen that people who do undergo therapy or who do take medications lead a much more fruitful life as compared to people who go unaware, undiagnosed, untreated, or are afraid for therapy thinking that it can have side effects. Believe me, it absolutely doesn't. In my vast experience, I have seen a lot of clients, a lot of patients who do much better in their personal lives, professional lives once they undergo these kind of treatments. In India, we have family and friends, which are our biggest support system, and I think that's fabulous because unlike the West, in India, family is so intertwined that often they may be a cause for concern, but I think they give a really great emotional support to the patient or client. However, sometimes the family and friends, in all good intentions, say things like, oh, don't worry, it will be all right, or oh, just snap out of it, come on, it's been so long. So I've had women who say have had a postnatal depression, or maybe say an anxiety or trauma after an event which was not likely, say there was a neonatal death. And of course, that's like a PTSD. So you can have husbands as well as family members who will say, but it's been so long, kya abhi, chalo, you have to look after yourself, move on in life. These words are not comforting. So a lot of clients come and tell me, how can, professionals and other people even say things like this? So please be more supportive by being more empathetic rather than sympathetic, telling things like, we are with you. Let's see what we can do. Sometimes just listening and reflecting rather than giving advice is always good. And finally, seeking professional help. I think doing something like that and coming with the client and patient to the therapist and to the doctor will always be very useful. Stress is such a common word. I think it is a used or maybe even overused word. But unfortunately, people use the word stress but don't identify their own stress. So it is worthwhile to see that you identify that you are stressed. So it could be symptoms of stress and anxiety. So it could be just feeling anxious all the time, feeling low all the time. It could be having thoughts which are constantly preoccupying you all the time. There are a variety of symptoms. I would say one is, please identify that you are stressed. Once you've identified that, second, look at the triggers that are causing stress. So a trigger could be anything. A trigger could be going out, say in the market where you've had a bad experience. It could be going to the workplace and over there somebody has been a bully. So identify the triggers, what they could be. Once you've identified them, what should you do? Of course, if you can avoid it, please avoid it. We are humans. We have to learn to avoid things we don't like. But there are certain things you can't avoid. Say you can't avoid not going by car. You can't avoid not taking the lift. At that time, look at ways to learn to calm yourself. We call them self-soothing exercises. What does that mean? How do you learn to calm yourself? You have deep breathing exercises. You have relaxation exercises. Some people do meditation. If it works for you, do it. Doesn't work, please don't do it. Instead, go for a walk, go and exercise yourself. Other ways of self-soothing, we call it productive distraction. That means distract your mind to something where the mind feels calmer. I have clients who tell me, I love watching a serial on TV. Oh, please go ahead, watch it. So there are different ways where you can learn to calm yourself. I had a client who said she loves speaking to her brother, and once she does, that's it. Well, please go ahead. So there are various ways where you can soothe yourself. None of the strategies work. Please seek professional help. Thank you for watching this video. I hope it was informative. I hope I can have a multiplier effect where I can spread the word of mental health in India and all over. Thank you.